Pizza Jaffa's orange grows. Microchips is us. iPhone cameras us. Taco salads us. Bodagabanos us. Olive Garden us. White phosphor us. Sabra Hamas. Hezbollah us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bad Hasbara,
a very special episode of the world's most moral podcast.
That's right. My name is Matt Lieb. I will be your most moral co-host for this podcast.
I'm Daniel Mate, your other most moral co-host. I put the co in co-host.
That's right, and I put the host in Parasite. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to our producer, Adam Levin. This is going to be the shortest intro I think that we've ever done because of the fact that we have an amazing guest today that I want to get right to introducing. First, before we start, I do want to shout out today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Hussein Team for Aid in Gaza. The Hussein Team is a grassroots volunteer initiative in Gaza providing urgent relief to those suffering in displacement camps and shelters across the Gaza Strip. The group is currently providing freshly prepared meals for displaced families in shelters and camps, emergency cash assistance to families with no means of support, infant and maternal necessities, and many more urgent interventions based on daily needs assessments. You can donate right now at the link on your screen. It's in the description. Click it. Please donate. Give some money if you can. Again, short intro. We're not spinning today. Today, we're in the no spin zone.
Correct. We got more important things, more important matters than what records I'm listening to.
Well, to be fair, I don't think there's anything more important than that. But there are things that are of equal importance. Today we have an amazing guest from Gaza. He is there right now. He is a Palestinian Sudanese poet. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, please welcome Ahmed Sarsour. Hey.
Hi there.
How you doing, buddy?
Ahmed.
I am okay. Alive still. How are you guys?
Alive.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that phrase. I don't know what it means, but it sounds pretty sick. What does that mean?
I think it's the equivalent of Baruch Hashem, right? Does it mean thanks be to God?
Oh, is it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks to God.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks be to God indeed. And thanks be to you for coming on the podcast. Obviously this is a podcast in which we talk, for almost, we started in December 2024. And we talk about, oh, yeah, that's right, 2023. Time in my head is totally messed up. And of course, focusing exclusively on, the genocide that's happening. And we have spoken to many Palestinians on the show, but not anyone who has been in Gaza. This is our first time talking to someone live on the podcast who's there.
Closest we've gotten is we did an interview with someone live on a boat trying to get to Gaza, and as we record this, those boats are being intercepted.
Yes.
By
wow.
Israel.
Yeah. So
which one was that?
The Samud flotilla. We did an episode with Greg Stoker, who is a repeat guest of ours, who is currently on.
He's a U.S. military veteran. He's on a boat of U.S. veterans who are trying to get to Gaza with humanitarian aid, alongside the 45 other boats that, Israel will do anything to stop the baby formula that they're carrying.
Yeah,
but we have so many questions.
Yeah.
For you, Ahmed. Look, you're speaking to two very sheltered North Americans with a lot of other, a diverse array of listeners, but many of our listeners are living in parts of the world where we don't have to worry about our homes exploding or starvation, and there isn't a genocide going on around us. Virtually everyone who listens to this podcast is outraged and deeply upset and heartbroken by what's happening to your people. And, this seems almost ridiculous to say, but we are so sorry for what you are going through and the people of Gaza are going through. But for all of
Thank
our
you.
goodwill, and yes, of course, but for all of our meaning well and feeling deeply about it, there's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot we remain ignorant of because A, we're not there, B, we get stuff filtered to us through all kinds of different places, and there's a lot of confusion. So we may ask you some questions that may seem very basic, but that's the level at which we sometimes need to come in so that we can actually understand your reality, because we want our empathy to
Yeah.
be informed and our outrage to be informed. So yeah, Matt, where do you want to start?
Well,
Maybe
I want to start off with how is it going? See, I'm not a good interviewer. How are things right now? It's the middle of the night, it seems, in Gaza. How are you feeling? How secure do you feel in this moment?
And where are you physically?
Okay. It is 9:15 p.m. at the moment. Today was a very hectic day, to be honest. My auntie passed away, and we
Oh,
have been
no.
at the funeral. Yeah, all day long. She has been sick for almost 3 to 5 months now, and with the bad medical health and hospital and system here after is not real. After Israel, why I'm saying is not real. Like, I am used to this because on TikTok they banned my account. So sorry, but yeah, because Israel
You
bombed
can.
all of the
If
hospitals.
anyone, if any guest has earned the right to say is not real, or literally call it anything you want.
Yeah, we usually ask, what do you prefer? Is not real or Israel? Your choice.
Yeah.
Or Satan's
Okay.
Satan's workshop, or whatever
Satan's
you want to
ass.
call it.
Satan's ass. That
Satan's
works.
asshole. Yeah.
Yes.
Satan's
So
ass
yeah,
rail.
they bombed almost all the hospitals. So
Right.
there's she hasn't been medicated like well enough. I believe like my sister, she came here today from Khan Yunis. She like lives in another city, and I heard her talk with my dad. My dad is a doctor as well. My sister, and they were talking that there have been a sepsis in her internal organs, and they don't think they attended to it because of the hospital situation, and this is what caused the death. But we can't be sure, of course, because like no one is ordering autopsy here or something, because like there's no time to
Right.
do this kind of stuff. But yeah, today was a very hectic day, and she was like dear to my heart. She's my older aunt. She's the oldest of her siblings.
How old was she, Ahmed?
I believe she was 79 years old. She witnessed the Nakba. I remember how she was talking about this when she said the Israeli soldiers came and they ordered them to evacuate, and how she carried her little sister, my other aunt, and how they came and foot here to the middle area in Deir al-Balah. They were living.
Where did they have to evacuate from? Where did they live? What's their where in Palestine did they live?
They were working as farmers in Beer Shiva, Beer Sebe.
Yeah.
And so they were living there, but then when the Nakba happened, they got evacuated and came back here to our hometown. It is in the middle area of G Strip. It is called Deir al-Balah. I am currently now in Deir al-Balah actually in the house that my grandma was living. It's not even finished. Like if you can see the walls behind it, they are even gray, like cement walls. Like there is no paint on them, because I have been living in Sudan for 21 years, and we didn't have like a stable home here in Gaza. And for those who don't know me, I am Palestinian, but I have been in Sudan for 21 years. We have been living there with my mom, my dad, and my sisters, which came back in 2016 here which came back here in 2012 to Gaza and got married in 2016. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's where I am physically and how I am feeling.
Right. Well, so where you said you were past 26 years in Sudan. When
21.
did you? 21 years.
Yeah, I was in Khartoum,
Okay. The capital.
the capital of Sudan. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Have you ever, so you're Sudanese and Palestinian. Have you ever wished that you had like a third country to be from that has been completely and totally screwed over by the world? Like maybe being Palestinian, Sudanese, East Timorese or something like that, just to round out the
right,
trifecta?
yeah, to get the big three.
Well, to be honest, I wish to not be Palestinian. Like for my whole life, I think I wish that, because whenever we wanted to go somewhere like other countries, they were saying that they don't accept Palestinians. If you don't know this about the Middle Eastern countries, they are not actually big fans of Palestinian. Even
Right,
some
they're not
countries,
real allies.
yeah, we are not even allowed to go to some countries like in the Middle East. So I was wishing for like few years if I wasn't born Palestinian, because like this is the whole reason why I got to evacuate Gaza in 2020 to go back to go to Sudan to seek a decent life, because like here the situation in Gaza wasn't decent living for any human being. Like the wars, this wasn't the first war. Like the thing that they keep saying that it started on the 7th of October, which is not, obviously. It started long ago. It started before 78 years when the Nakba happened, and when they started this state, like the regime that they called Israel, and how they say that this land is being promised to them like 3,000 years ago, but they just remember themselves like 76 years ago. Like what the hell?
Yeah. And you moved from Khartoum to Gaza when? Most recently, like.
Yeah, we started the journey on the 28th of May for 2023. The civil war that started in Sudan, it started on the 15th of April of 2023. We stayed there for almost 6 weeks. And then the situation got really severe and there, so we couldn't survive. And when we decided to get evacuated, like get out of Sudan, we didn't find anywhere to go but to go to Egypt or like other African countries, but the road was really bumpy and so long. So it was easier for us to go to Egypt. And when we arrived at the border between Egypt and Sudan, which is called Argin border, they asked us for $5,000 per person to get the visa to enter Egypt. And the four of us, we were gonna pay like $20,000, which we didn't have at that time. Then the embassy meddled and said they can evacuate us here to Gaza, the embassy of Palestine in Cairo. And so they gave us like free passage, but they said that we are not to set any foot on the Egyptian lands. Like we were even accompanied by tanks, by police cars, by military vehicles all the time. Yeah. Yes, it was so weird. Like we were only 11. We were like the last bus that evacuated Sudan from Palestinians that were living in Sudan. We were only 11, and I believe 3 of us were kids, and us the 4, and then like other 4. So yeah, it was really
and
weird.
And in 2023, of all times to evacuate one war zone, you know, to go to another one, there's like just so much like comic irony in that, where you're just like, oh, good, we're in Gaza right before October 7th. When October 7th happened, like what was your feeling, you know, being in Gaza? You know, how did you feel at that moment?
Yeah, well, the war started 4 months after we arrived here. I arrived here on the 1st of June of 2023. And to be honest, it felt like a dream, or more of like a nightmare. The war that started in Sudan, it started on Saturday day. And the war here in Gaza also started on a Saturday.
That's right.
So I was asleep at that time. I think I woke up to the sounds of missiles and bombs. It was almost like 5 a.m. or like 6 a.m. in the morning. Why I keep saying in the morning? Yeah, a.m. So it felt like a dream. Like I felt like I am still in Khartoum. And
was this like on October 8th? Was this October 8th, the day after
No, October 7th. They were like missiles on October 7th as well. But I can't remember if they were coming from Gaza to like going to Israel or like the opposite. Like we just woke up to the sounds of missiles and bombs, because like we are adjacent to the Israeli state, like occupied territories as well. Like even Deir al-Balah is the nearest place, like the nearest city to the Israel territories here in Palestine.
How far of a walk to the wall is it from where you are?
10 minutes.
The so-called border. 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It's not that far, huh?
Yeah,
I think
close.
it's less than 2 kilometers. Yeah, less than 2 kilometers from where I'm living.
And so you're in the same place, or at least the same town that you were in on October 7th as that you are now.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. And have you had to move around? I mean, a lot of people that we know and we have seen who are currently in Gaza. Mohsen, who is someone who we've worked with, doing fundraisers for, recently put out like his, trajectory since October 7th in terms of all of the times that he has had to move. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah, no. Like the middle area here, especially city of Deir al-Balah, like the last time they have been evacuation orders for the half of my city, but it wasn't like in the area that I am living in. Okay. So I didn't have to evacuate like at all, thank God. But we received a lot of displaced families, like my aunties, my sisters, our in-laws, and even now we are sheltering. One of my aunts is still with us. But yeah, we didn't get to evacuate.
And if we were to go outside with you right now, what would we be looking at? What would we see? What's the condition of your neighborhood, your city? We hear about an enormous percentage of civil infrastructure, residential buildings destroyed. We've seen the pictures from above. What are you surrounded by, and how far are you from the nearest violence?
Well, the nearest violence is less than 50 meters away. Like we were here when it happened. And actually I was supposed to go to that house when it got bombed. I think it was on the 10th or 11th of October on 2023. Like this house, they were selling water, like drinkable water. And that day we were running out of water, and my mom, and I was supposed to go and fill the water gallons. But my mom, for some reason, she said that she's craving macaroni and she likes the macaroni that I make. So I stayed with her in the kitchen and we were making the macaroni, and then the bombardment happened. Like it was a missile, and then the whole house, it was filled with this dark fumes and dust because like it is a nearby house, only 50 meters away from us. And thank God, like that day I didn't die. And also there's another house. Yeah. And there's also another house, which is like 200 meters away from us that got bombed. And then the mosque of my neighborhood got bombed recently as well. And Deir al-Balah is so close to us. And also in the street that I always walk by to go to the market, they sent 2 missiles twice. They were targeting some people there. So yeah, there is some destruction.
Have there been Israeli tanks and soldiers in your streets?
In my streets, no, but close to my neighborhood. They were in. I think they reached Al-Birka Street. I don't know if you have heard of it. Like there's a school that is called Al-Mazra, like the farm school, and they reached there. It is like 1.5 kilometers away from my home, but it still is kind of far. So I didn't see any tanks.
Yeah, I mean, the images that we have seen through our phone screens have been unimaginable. And so, it's like an extra layer of unimaginableness actually being there. You yourself seeing things with your own eyes. And what's interesting about what it sounds like your situation is here in, is it Deir al-Balah? Is that how you pronounce it?
Deir
Yeah,
al-Balah, yeah.
with that H at the end that you have. A
I'm
hard
doing
time saying.
I try.
It's okay.
No, no, no.
I got your first name though, pretty good, Ahmed. I did that good, right? No,
You did great.
Yeah.
You did great.
But it sounds like your neighborhood, or the town, is of course is experiencing a lot of destruction as well. I'm not discounting that, but there's an interesting feeling from what it sounds like of not having the evacuation orders happen there. It's like been avoided thus far. What is your what is it like from before October 7th to now? Because now like in terms of population, how many how different is it? Is it filled with people? Have people come there in droves, or are they still going all around?
Yeah, well, it is so crowded. Like my house, like it is in a side street, so and there's no other houses like after us. Like we are the last house in that side street, and like before October 7th, like no one goes into this street like at all. Only if someone is coming to visit us. But like six, I think a year ago, when the evacuation of the north happened and Rafah, like in this side street, when I want to go to the market, I see from 50 to 100 people like inside this side street. But when I get to the main street, like in front of my eyes, like I can see more than 1,000. And when I get into the market, I believe I can see like more than 5,000 to 10,000 at the same time on the street. Like even today when I went to the funeral, like it was so crowded, we couldn't even move. Like we had to wait in lines in the street for people to get passes and like to walk. Like we were like taking baby steps to get to our destination. It is so crowded. And even people like they are, if you are to get to the main street now, even people like they have their tents in the main street now because like there's no place to go. So they live on the street now. They like set up their tents and they sleep in it, and it's in the main street. And when to go to any empty land, there is no empty lands nowadays. All is being occupied by people coming from the north.
And all of this puts you in I imagine, an odd position because you're in the most beleaguered, acutely one of the most suffering places on earth, if not the most, and yet you are in a relatively fortunate position. You have a home, you're talking to us with some internet. I'm sure it's not consistent. We're very lucky to be talking to you. I guess the question is how is that for you, and how is it dealing with the because we think of Gaza as everyone is in the same situation, everyone's in the same boat, but there's different compartments on the boat.
Yeah.
So what are the complications of that? And I'm sure Gazan society was already, dealing with inequality. All places, all societies do. But what's it like for you? And do you have any stories about being in the position you're in?
Well, honestly, for me, myself, like I feel guilty sometimes that I am still fortunate like this and that I can't offer for people to come to stay with us. We did try to offer this for a lot of people. Like we even have a property. It's not that big, like only 500 square meters, and we opened it for the people, and now we are sheltering there like 20 families or so. But what you are saying here, like the question, what you are aiming at, it is happening. Like people here, sometimes they envy each other, and some people like even hold grudges against each other because like, we are being infiltrated. Like there's some Israeli spies here. I know some people don't like to hear that. But yeah, there's some people who are still who are working and they are spies to Israel, and they have been fortunate because like some people are still having electricity since the 7th of October. Like they have this massive solar panels and it's still running with this. Like us, we forgot the taste of meat, the taste of chicken. We didn't have electricity since the 7th of October, and we didn't have water all the time. We are like suffering to get water. And but yes, I am fortunate, but I am not that fortunate. Like there's some people are more fortunate than us, and those people are raising a lot of questions around them, because like people always question where they get that, from where they have this kind of money, from where they get their electricity, why they always have running water, So
Well, look, I mean, anyone who knows the history of what happened to my people, Matt's people in Europe, anyone who knows anything about human beings under conditions that human beings shouldn't have to face, imposed by other human beings, knows that it creates rivalry and envy and distrust and suspicion and competition. You reduce people, you treat people like quote unquote human animals, as Yoav Gallant called you, and you will reduce them to the conditions where they have to compete for scarce resources. And it's not anyone's fault except the people imposing that.
It's literally the objective. It's the main objective of a siege. That's what a siege is. That's the point of a siege, is to cut off a people, cut them off from supplies, from food, from water, from anything you can do, and get them, the people themselves, to go at each other like that. This is what sieges are historically, with the added, of course, indignity of it also being a genocidal siege. So
if you're feeling any guilt right now, I invite you to send some our way. We can handle, we deserve over here in America, the country that's paying for your fucking immiseration.
Yeah,
we'll take some of your guilt off your hands.
Yes,
that's ours.
Yeah, it is, and it's always interesting talking about guilt with some, especially since it's we're asking you, someone who is currently in the midst of a genocide, who got to it by fleeing from a civil war. Do you feel bad? It's crazy, of course.
Yeah.
But it's still, human beings are still crazy, at all times, And some people they can't even see the struggles that we have endured. I don't like to talk about this, and I don't think I even bring it up on any of my interviews. But we come from a very comfortable family. We're not super rich, but alhamdulillah, we were always comfortable. My mom, she's a pharmacist. My dad, he's a gynecologist. My two sisters are gynecologists. My brother, he's a public health doctor. Me and my brother are engineers. And we have always had money. We never ask anyone to give us anything. We never reach our hand to beg for anything, And even when we arrived here, people were thinking that we arrived with a lot of fortune, because we didn't complain, or we didn't ask people to help us, even when we got here to Gaza, And the thing that people don't know, that my dad, before he evacuated Sudan 2 years before 2023, he put all of our money savings into a project there in Sudan. It was he bought a property, and this is what left us broke. This is why we couldn't even afford to go to Egypt and pay the $20,000.
Oh, wow.
And also when we were faced with the same fate here in Gaza. A friend, my friend, she's working for an NGO. She's Mexican. She reached out to me, and she was questioning why I am still in Gaza. She knows I am from a comfortable family, why I am not being evacuated. So when I asked, when I told her about the situation, she started this campaign for me, a GoFundMe campaign, and we couldn't reach the goal. But then people saw that we are asking for money on the internet for the first time. And then some people got envious of us, although for me, I wasn't even helping myself. For me, I was helping my family. I needed to evacuate my parents because they are elderly and sick, and I wanted to get evacuated as well, because this is not a life. And then my sister gave birth one time, and then a second time during the war, and their houses got destroyed. And then my aunties, their houses got destroyed, and I started these different campaigns for everyone. And I hoped for the people to see the kind of work that I am doing on the internet. That I wanted to see I wanted them to see that I'm not doing this for only myself.
Hey, we're back. You may have noticed that we look different, and that is because we switched to a Zoom call because we were having some connectivity issues. When we left off, what were we talking about?
Let's not worry about what we were talking about. Let's just find a new gear.
Let's find a new gear.
Yeah. So Ahmed, there's so many things happening that we pay attention to on this show. We're trying to pay attention to what we can gather about the situation on the ground where you are. Then we're looking, this show is all about propaganda, hasbara, which is, I'm sure, a word you guys are familiar with. It's the, Israeli excuses, justifications, explanations, and falsehoods that justify what's happening to you, or you're trying to use it to justify it. And then there's the American and global politics that greatly influences it. Besides the day-to-day existence of, and which I imagine must take up like an incredible amount of energy.
Most of it,
in fact. How much energy do you or do most Palestinians? And again, probably it's not worth me asking you what about most Palestinians, because you're not, it's not a monolith. It's not, you don't speak as one. But
Yeah.
what are you or people paying attention to outside of the walls of Gaza that makes the biggest difference to your daily life, if anything? Are you paying attention to what's going on internal to the settler colony and their Israel, their politics, American politics, humanitarian missions like the flotilla? What's on your mind when you have the luxury of time and energy to think about what's going on outside the cage you're in?
Yeah, well, as you said, we are different human beings and we differ like one Gazan from another. But I have been following a lot of journalists and writers, artists here on the ground in Gaza. And yes, most of them, like, they have different opinions and different point of views. For me personally, the only thing that I was focusing on, it was like to stop the war and break the siege. I have been asking people to come and tear down the walls themselves, like the borders. I have been asking for March to Gaza for ages, and I believe they answered the call, but it wasn't a success. And then I kept asking them for military intervention, and I believe recently Colombia president said he will be sending troops, but he's waiting for another allies to join forces with him to start doing that. And then the Madlin ship came, and then Handala, and now the Samud flotilla also coming to break the siege and bring a lot of aid in. And me personally, I am so excited and so hopeful about this. The first time that when the Madlin ship was coming, I was even awake until like 2 a.m. and I was like watching them live. And then around 2 a.m., like 2:15 a.m., they were intercepted, and there have been like these quadcopters that were roaming the airs, and then the Israeli soldiers got on board and they threw their phones in the sea. When the Handala ship came, to be honest, I haven't paid any attention to it. Like, I didn't even watch the news. We were so busy back then because like the situation was getting worse and worse. And my sisters back then were evacuating Khan Yunis, and they came to stay with us. So we were really busy with everything that's happening on the ground. So as I said, watching the news from outside of Gaza and trying to comprehend the political atmosphere like in the US or like different countries, it is a luxury that most of us don't have. We only have it when we have access to the internet, if we have our phones charged, and if we have like a slow day or like an easier days, because like most days these days are really, really hard. Like if you want to cook a meal, you have to cook it in fire and start to prepare for it so early in the day before like it gets dark, because like we have no electricity from since the 7th of October. And I remember
how are
that
you
one
charging
day-
your phones and getting any battery power? What do you do for that?
Well, some of our neighbors they have solar panels from before the war started. These are the kind of comfortable ones.
Hmm.
But since we haven't been here, like we don't have any solar panels, so we used to rely on the kindness of our neighbors, and we are still are. But nowadays, my aunties who's displaced with us, they already have a solar panel,
Oh,
and they
nice.
are charging, yeah, they are charging our phones for us, but it doesn't last for too long. And the battery that they're using, it has been used for like 2 years now, and it's running out, out of
Mm.
its full power and full capacity. And I have been actually thinking to buy some, but like the prices, like they multiplied by, I believe, 10 times, like 20 times. Like one solar panel used to cost less than $200, and nowadays it costs from 2,000 to 3,000, which is
Ugh,
insane. So
crazy.
And can I ask you a
yeah,
question about money in general? I
yeah, of
mean,
course, anything.
how is cash being used? How are people paying for food, and how is there even, like, it's hard for me and many of us to even think about it, any sort of economic system existing there. Is it a continuation of the previous economic system, or has some sort of completely situation specific kind of economy sprouted up since October 7th?
Um, well, this is a tough one. I don't know how to explain this, but I will try my best to give
Yeah,
you
thank
the
you.
image. Remember how I mentioned earlier that there's some people are still are spies and working with Israeli state. So most of, like, the rumor has it. I'm not really sure of this, but this is what I hear. Like I only arrived here like almost 2 years ago, so I don't know all about what is happening here on the ground.
Sure.
But this is what I got. Uh, some of the traders here, like they working with Israel, and they are the ones who are multiplying the prices, and they even like withdrawing the cash from the market. Like nowadays, suddenly they started using the bank account. Like there's a transfer. Like if you are using, like you are using your Visa card or something.
Mhm.
Like nowadays, they're using only like digital transfers. There's no actual cash that is being used or dealt with between the trader and the buyer. And I think 3 months ago, for like almost 6 months, when the borders got closed in March, they stopped using that. They were only dealing with cash, and this is how they got it all from the market. And the prices went from like the normal prices and multiplied to 100, even sometimes. Like 1 kg of sugar, it used to cost only like half a dollar. Imagine that it reached to $100
Wow.
during that six
For
months.
half a kilogram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for 1 kg, yeah, 1 kilogram of sugar. And even the flour, it used to cost only 25 cents, and it reached to almost $80. And people were like, they didn't have any, like, there's no resources, and most of the people were relying on the UNRWA and the aid that is coming in, and they were cutting all of this kind of stuff. And even Trump, when he went into office, I believe he withdrew some of the money that is coming to the UNRWA, and he was trying to forbid them from working here in the G Strip.
Right.
Yeah, and even us, like I believe that there have been this period that we bought flour when it reaches like $40, and it was so expensive. And some other families, as I said, like they bought it when it reached $80 and stuff like that, and such a sort. So it's really insane. But nowadays, the only thing that they are dealing with is like the digital transfers, as I said, from bank accounts, and they're trying to withdraw the cash. And also, there's some traders that actually, most of them are thieves, and they are the drug dealers. Yeah, there's a drug market here. They have been, I think they caught up some cargo that is coming of drugs that coming inside of G Strip multiple times, but obviously there's some that got in, and these are the people who are also dealing with a lot of cash, when you go like what is that, the exchange, like there's this coins at the exchange, they're trying also to take it from the market. Now if you want to, like let's say that you have 50 shekels that you wanted to have in exchange, like in those coins, they will give you almost 35 shekels in exchange of these 50 shekels. So they take like 30% out of that money. And also, if you want to withdraw from your bank account and have it in cash, they will take 35% to 50%. I remember, like recently, somebody like the Waterloo Friends region of Palestine in Canada, they sent me $1,000 to help some families in need here in Gaza, like some of my relatives, and I did a bread initiative. That $1,000, when I got it in cash, it was only $667. So they took 35% out of that money.
Yeah, this is what I've been dealing with Mohsen as well. In doing those fundraisers, is finding out that the money that we raise is already immediately being cut almost in half by just, if not processing fees through like whatever digital coin market we're using, the rest is through the scoundrels and thieves who are basically taking huge chunks of people's money if they want to try to get it in cash.
Well, let me ask you a question about hunger. I just, as we were recording this, I noticed, I didn't eat lunch today. I didn't have time. I was cleaning up and I forgot to eat. And I'm thinking, man, I'm hungry. And sometimes we here in the privileged world will use expressions like, oh man, I'm starving. Yeah. I'm famished. And my mind will still do that just automatically. And then I look at you and I realize where you are. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what's your experience been like and also I should say, the day we're recording this, in a couple of hours, the Jewish festival of Yom Kippur will start, where religious Jews, I'm not one of them, will be fasting for 24 hours. And Jews are supposed to be contemplating about our sins and what we've done wrong, and people, experiencing hunger for a day, no food, no sex, none of that. And I'm just wondering how many of my fellow Jews here in North America or anywhere else in synagogues will be using their experience of 24-hour hunger to think about people who are suffering hunger for much longer. But that's a separate question. What's your experience of hunger been, and what's hunger like around you? What have you seen and experienced around that? If that's not too difficult a question to answer.
Yeah, of course. As I said, we are a fortunate family. We have been comfortable our whole lives, and we were running out of money, to be honest, and resources. But my sisters, they have been blessed, and one of them, she started like this work with I think UK Med Save the Children, and the other started the work with the American, I think, Doctors Without Borders, and they were like giving us monthly allowance. But still, like this money we were using to buy less than the necessities and the basic needs. Like we stopped having dinner for like, I think 4 months or like 5 months during that period that I told you about, when they closed the border from March until like a month ago. We were having only 2 meals per day, which was huge for some Gazans here. Like some Gazans only survived on 1 meal per day, and sometimes like 1 meal per 2 days. So we were fortunate, alhamdulillah, like only 2 meals, but we were rationing also the bread. We were only having only 1 loaf of bread per meal, like me and my brother and my mom and my dad. And we were surviving most of the days on the rice that coming from kitchens that deliver aid. Like we used to have this rice daily, and we will only buy cucumbers and tomatoes and make a salad as the main dish. I was gonna say like as a side dish, but actually that was the main dish. Like we will have rice and salad, and that was like the meal we were having for lunch. And we were surviving on this for like 3 to 4 months. And some other days we'll only have macaroni, which like like macaroni is like being digested so fast, and we will get hungry. But I counted a lot of nights that I went to bed hungry, but and instead of like going to fetch something, and that might take from the other day, from the next day, I just went to bed and slept because like um, we will not be affording to have 3 meals per day. But still, as I said, we were more fortunate than other families. We were having 2 meals per day. And even today, to be honest, like I didn't have lunch, and the aid kitchen started to work again, and they got us this macaroni. And to be honest, and I shouldn't be saying that, and we are still being starved and everything, but we couldn't eat it because like it is tasteless. It doesn't taste like anything. We
That's,
couldn't eat at all. So,
maybe the biggest like. I hope the chef isn't listening. It was just like,
yeah,
listen, I
yeah,
know we're,
yeah, yeah.
I know we're in
Yeah,
a
sometimes
famine, but please.
we were forced to eat it. But nowadays, like there's some other options and the prices are dropping. So we went and we bought some cheese and some luncheon, and we had that. But oh God, like when I remember these 6 months that we were surviving on this kind of food, and we only bake 1 kilogram of flour per day. It was insane, to be honest. Like not being able to eat whatever that you crave. Like I already told you, like we forgot how the meat and chicken taste like, and even eggs. Like it was for like 8 months now. We didn't have any eggs, and like. Also like natural cheese, like some people used to have to make cheese locally here. We didn't have any kind of that as well. We only eat canned food nowadays, even though the prices are dropping, but the only things that in the market is canned food and feta cheese, which I
Mm,
also canned, I believe, in a way.
yeah. I mean, it sounds very much like that particular period lines up almost perfectly with the time in which the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, basically UNRWA being kicked out, everything, all aid being funneled into like 4 specific, places, where the GHF was gunning down and continues to gun down people, up until when there was finally public outcry to the pictures of starvation and whatnot. And it sounds like now the options are a little bit better because of hopefully, I mean, I'm making an assumption here, but because of possibly the pressure. This is kind of what the Israeli government seems to do, is they stretch as long as they can, the ability for Palestinians to eat, control, calories, control food going in and out, and then letting just enough loose so that they can claim otherwise, especially.
Yeah, I believe the United Nations announced that there's starvation in Gaza. This is why they started getting aid in, but
Right,
also it wasn't enough, and it's still not enough, by the
of
way.
course.
Even nowadays, like we are struggling to find something to eat. Like we are sick of eating canned food. Like we were surviving on fava beans and hummus for how long now? And even for a month, we didn't have any fava beans and hummus, and we were like craving it, although we were having for 6 months.
Yeah, it's
And yeah,
I mean, there's something
chicken.
particularly disgusting about the fact that, the starvation is allowed to go on for so long until finally there's institutions like the New York Times or the UN saying, "Hey, I think there's some starvation going on."
There's
And
been
then
enough starvation. We need
right, and
there's,
then
there's
there's
a little too much starvation going on. Can we have a little less starvation?
and then that pressure does cause the Israelis to lift some restrictions or get just a tiny bit more food in. It's like, oh, so we should I mean, of course, the blame being on the Israelis, but also on the Western institutions as well. It just feels, I don't know, it feels particularly evil,
Yeah.
that anyone would hold off on talking.
Ahmed, I want to
Um,
ask you a question about the resistance and the state of the, I don't like calling it a war, but whatever we call this, the armed conflict, Israeli assault on Gaza and the Palestinian resistance to it. I guess I have two related questions. One is more immediate and one is more sort of general or long term. There's this talk of this new peace plan. I mean, every week there's a new peace plan, and Netanyahu will come to Washington and have a meeting and nod his head and say, yes, this war could end tomorrow. He said that to the UN. Then he comes back to Israel and says in Hebrew to his audience, of course, we're never going to accept this. We'll never, but what's the mood on the ground? And again, I'm asking you a general question that you can't possibly answer for all 2 million or however many are left people there. But what are you seeing around you or hearing, or how are you feeling about the offers that are on offer, and whether or not, obviously there'd be massive concessions and it would be very untrustworthy, and I'm sure no one believes that Israel is going to abide by these things, but I imagine also there must be incredible fatigue. So what's the attitude towards these so-called peace negotiations? And I guess the second question would be about, have you or anyone else around you changed your mind? And I don't know where your mind was before October 7th. So this is not a leading question of like, oh, did you used to be for armed resistance and now you're against it? Maybe it went in the other direction. I'm just curious about what the effect has been on you and the people around you and your attitude about how to deal with this insane occupying force that seems to have no interest ever whatsoever in giving up its domination of you.
Okay. So for me, the resistance is the resistance. Like people are giving the label. I didn't want to bring that up, but I guess I should. Like people think the resistance is only Hamas, but this is not the case here. Here in Gaza, there's a lot of fronts other than Hamas that are within the resistance, and they joined forces with Hamas, and they did they did on the 7th of October and before that and after that. So it's not only Hamas. So people, when they say resistance is Hamas, is entirely wrong, and they shouldn't be saying that. And also we are all human beings and we all make mistakes. So the leadership, it's already being uprooted during the past 2 years. Most of Hamas leaders, the big ones and the strong ones, they're already being unalived by Israeli, the IDF. So now I believe they should be founding new leaders for all of these fronts, like Hamas, Fatah, Jihad, and some other Qassam. There's a lot of fronts here. Like even myself, I don't know all of the names of them. Like I told you, I didn't know any history when I came here to Gaza. Like when I left Gaza, I was only 9 years old. And to be honest, I wasn't even involved in politics or in the history of Palestine at all. I have been focusing where I was living in Sudan. I have been fighting the regime of Omar Bashir there and Islamic leaders who claim to be following the Islam religion, which that wasn't our religion at all. And this is what I keep telling people from all over the world. The thing that they say about Muslims and Islam, it's not all true. They are trying to give us this picture that we are trying to kill of all the nations that are not following our religion, which is not the case. This is not us. This is not who we are. And also Hamas doesn't represent the whole resistance. We are all one in Gaza.
Yes.
And we all have different opinions. And as I said, most of the leaders, they already have been unalived. So now we are left without a leader, I believe. So this is my sole opinion about this. But for me personally, I believe we need to put an end to this ongoing genocide. This is not, as you said, this is an armed conflict. It is not. It is not even a war. They are the strong part. They are a nation that is being helped with other nations, with the US, UK, France, and most of the EUE countries, and we are powerless in front of them. We don't have any power. I know a lot of people saying that we have been holding our ground for 2 years, but we paid a lot of cost, a lot of souls, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of the land that here, like they destroyed everything here in Gaza. If we are to build Gaza, we will need from 5 to 10 years, if it's not 50 years, to rebuild. And people are getting weary and tired. We just need to put an end to this because we have lost so much and so many souls. And no matter how the price now, I think we will accept it and we will deal with it later. We just need to regroup. We need to gather our forces. We need to find the new leadership. We need to get together and get stronger, and then maybe start like avenging whatever happened here and the souls that were departed due to the assault on Gaza. But this is me, like this is just my opinion I don't know if a lot of people are agreeing with what I said. And I think what I said includes the question that you asked later. Like before the 7th of October, I didn't know anything. Like I believed Hamas was the only force here in Gaza, but when I got here, it wasn't the only force. They were like in government, like in office, but it wasn't the only front that resisting the Israeli state. There's other fronts.
That's very important to make that distinction between, or
resistance
to make it clear that resistance is a much more broad and unified thing. I mean, there was a unity intifada in 2021, right, where many groups came together. We don't have a lot of time left, and we also can't assume that all of our internets will stay. If it's not your internet, it'll be Matt's internet. And you are a poet, and we introduced you that way. And we want to make sure that we leave some good time to ask you about that and to hear a poem or two from you. So before we ask you to read something, what can you tell us about poetry in a time like this? And have you been able to write during this time? And what kind of role does art and self-expression play in a resistance or in the survival?
So I don't know if you noticed this, but my English is not that good. I am self-taught.
Your English
we did not notice because that's not true.
Yes.
You guys, great.
It's great. It truly is.
Thank you. Well, I am self-taught. Like I taught myself by listening to songs, watching movies and series. Like I love movies and series a lot. I used to spend a lot of time watching them, and suddenly I started like comprehend these sentences and forming these things inside
What's
of
your
my
favorite
head.
What's your favorite American TV series?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a tough one. I have a lot, I don't know if it's American even. Like I only watch what I like. I like sci-fi a lot, and I did watch Vampire Diaries, the originals, Grey's Anatomy. It's like different, but the Grey's Anatomy is drama. But I like the character Meredith and Christina. Like they are similar to me. Like I am always dark and twisted and depressed. Like I have social anxiety and panic attack disorder. So I relate to them somehow. So
so that's how you learned. That's how you learned English.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. So poetry. I used to write in Arabic, and I used to write like I can't call it like prose. It was like merely thoughts that I poured on papers when I was in Sudan. It wasn't that really neat. But during the war, I believe when I felt stuck, and I was seeing that people are moving on with their lives and moving forward, and us here moving from one war to another and not achieving anything. And I was almost 30. Like I have 3 birthdays during the wars. Like I'm now 32, and when I arrived in Gaza, I was only 29. So I had my 30th birthday during the war of Sudan, and then I have my 31st and 32nd during the war in Gaza. So poetry is kind of my gate to express myself, and also when I want to shout and scream, and knowing no one is like gonna hear me or like paying attention to me, like I can pour all of my emotions and thoughts on paper. But recently also I developed this skill where like people, as you did, people started when I get interviews like being alive, they will ask me about the history of Palestine and stuff like this. And I felt like so ignorant about it that I didn't know anything. So I started educating myself. And when I started doing so, I started using those information that I learned and put it into my poems. So my poetry also, in a way, is education because you may find like some stories and some information from like old history or like the new one, and things that happened during the war. Like I wrote about my nephew who arrived on the 6th. My sister gave birth on the 6th of February this year to my nephew, and it was when Trump got into office.
Right.
And then he, I believe, he asked Netanyahu to come, and they held that press conference, and they were like saying that they want to evacuate all of the population of G Strip and everything. And it was really cold and chilly and windy that day. And I believe I wrote a poem that is called Walls, Windows, and a Door, and it was related to what was happening here in Gaza and what's happening in the US between Trump and Netanyahu and the claims they were like having together. So as I said, poetry.
Is that a poem you'd be willing to
like
read
my
for
poetry?
us? Can we have you read that
Oh
poem?
yes,
Do you have that
yes,
handy? Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
yes, yes, sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure that I put in the request.
No, it's okay. No worries. So yeah, my poetry is educational and also expressive, a way to express my feelings and my emotions, and like talking to myself, kind of, because like I feel like sometimes I don't have anyone to talk to, and we weren't having any internet and for quite some time, and we didn't have any kind of electricity. Like in the beginning of the war, most of the families around us, they weren't even here. Like they didn't have these kind of solar panels, so we didn't have internet, and I wasn't talking to anyone abroad or like from the friends that I made during these last 2 years.
Sure.
So just let me find the poem.
Yeah, go for it. You wrote this
Okay,
on
so
the 7th?
I found it on the 7th of February of 2023, a day after my nephew was born. Okay.
Sorry, 2023 or this year?
2025, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. See, I am still stuck in the 2023, like this years haven't passed.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I wish like it feels like a waste of time, to be honest. Like I didn't achieve anything or do anything.
Well, I
So-
mean,
You're not alone. Many people feel trapped in a time warp, and you have every reason to be out of time. I mean, in the sense
Right.
of bewildered and disoriented. I mean, none of us can imagine. But please share your poem with us.
So the title, as I mentioned, Walls, Windows, and a Door. Trump, obviously complicit, hates us as he seeks to immigrate us. And as they plan our evacuation, this forced immigration, they leave us to death in all its forms. As he cynically acknowledges the scenes of death and destruction around our homes, he refuses to say who is behind this orchestrated play. The devil in front of you all, the sole cause of it in whole. The destruction was never a downfall. He's proud that he kept the war machine rolling. The death kept enrolling as heads kept polling. He smiles with a smirk and eye rolling in disapproval of peace talks presented on the table. Happy with his 3 goals and his war label. Ironic, true. But what's more ironic is us being envious of the people who live next door, who have walls, windows, and a door. I hear one saying, as his voice breaks, he asks while tears fall and his heart aches, do you have walls, windows, or doors? Or is just a tent like mine with lots of boards? Can you host me? My tent is leaking. My kids are freaking. I am freaking. Hard to stay peaking as the cold keeps peeking from the shredded plastic that made our fears freaking. My plastic door and windows couldn't hold. Can I borrow some plastic fixing before it gets cold? My body parts are frozen, working in fear to prevent my kids' tear and their souls from falling into death sphere by the cold, the glacial thief who keeps on calling. Winter used to be the favorite season in Gaza, with the smells of baking goods, hot beverages on the seashores of livelihoods, and the warmth of fire camps that hosted at every chance with barbecues, happiness and joy in all avenues. Now, these same shores are the lone source of despair, a daily life we have beyond repair. We used to rush to our homes when we felt the cold as the fun was done and the night was cold. Now there is no place to rush to, as the children cry and the parents weep, when tents start to fly with souls to the heavens deep. Winter is no longer a friend. Cold is no longer fun to play pretend. Campfires only tire our exhausted bodies that long to retire. And as ironic as that sounds, we only need walls, windows, and a door. That's all we ask for. So invest in giving us homes. Don't send us away. We have already lost too much up till today, so let us stay on the land that holds our loved ones in its belly, and where all of our memories lie, buried under its rubble and houses that are chilly. We don't ask for too much for you to ignore, just walls, windows, and a door.
Wow.
The end.
Bars.
Thank you for that, Ahmed. Are you a hip hop fan? Do you listen to?
I guess so. Yeah.
Because that has I mean,
Yeah.
that has the sort of the
cadence,
the relentless cadence and
the
flow
rhyme
of,
scheme too.
you know, makes me think of someone like Kendrick Lamar or you know. And in terms of what you said about educating through poetry, I mean, that's what rappers were doing from the beginning, at least in the conscious hip hop era, like telling the stories that never got told.
Yeah.
But you know, and
Yeah.
and the stories of history and the stories of the present. It's beautiful. Will you email that to us so we can put the text of it accompanying the video so that people can read along? I don't want them to miss a single word.
Yeah, I've got it.
You've got it. Okay, good.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's already on my link tree. If you
Yeah.
put my link tree, it has all of the links.
Perfect.
and we're gonna put everything on. We're gonna put the link tree in our description of this episode so that people can, you know, they can go through it and they can read your poetry and they can fund your various initiatives and possible documentary that you're trying to get funded. We'll make sure that that people get all of the links to everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Ahmed, this was really wonderful to speak with you, and I hope to do it again soon. Where can people follow you on social media?
Well, on my link tree, I am spreading through all of social media platforms. Like I am already in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Substack, Telegram, WhatsApp, everything. Yeah. I am not just working on this project only the songs. Like I am also working on an ebook, film, but we can definitely talk about this another time since we are running out of time here.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me on your podcast and for amplifying my voice and supporting my people and spreading the true facts about what's happening here in Gaza and Palestine.
You are more than welcome. And Ahmed, I mean, you've given us such a gift by coming on our show. You know, in some ways, this is a very silly show. We make a lot of jokes. We make fun of things. We make fun of things that are the farthest thing from funny in the world, but it's part of how we try to keep ourselves sane. But it's a very different experience to be speaking to someone who's there and to be speaking to a fellow wordsmith. And, you know, we just have we're just sending up all of our prayers and our intentions that this situation, this horrible thing that you're going through, will come to an end with something like freedom and justice as soon as possible. So hang in there. Please stay safe. Please keep us posted, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone else, thank you so much for watching and listening. badhasbara@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, and concerns. Badhasbara.com is our website. Go to patreon.com/badhasbara to get bonus episodes. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, from the river to the sea, you know what? I don't have any funny puns today. Palestine will be free.
Jumping jacks was us. Push-ups was us. Krav Maga us. All karate us. Taking Molly us.